Hey, I just want to answer that question that one of you had about the question number 59 from assignment 70. Other than that, you guys are indicating that you're doing fine with it, so hopefully the test is going to be good. But let's just get on with it. The first thing to do, it said, was to solve using the graphing calculator. So I've preloaded this in. When you use your graphing calculator, don't forget to make sure that all the plots are off, and if the plots are on, in other words, these are dark, just use the shortcut to go directly up there and hit enter on it to turn them off or on. So we have, here's our first equation, here's our second equation, and when you do zoom 6 on this, what we find is that when these two graphs are drawn, there's a definite gap in between them and they don't actually intersect. Since they don't actually intersect, okay, now they bring us to this other interesting question that was the second part of it, which says to find the domain of this minus this. Okay, so in other words, instead of having two equations, we want to know the possible x values, the domain, that are going to make this actually true. Okay, we want to think about that for a minute. The values for this function go this way, and the values for this function go this way. So when you subtract them, if you'll notice, there are no values over here for this one, and there are no values over here for this one. So the only place where you can do that subtraction problem correctly is where you have values for both of them. Because it's not like the value is 0 over there. It's there are no, x doesn't give you a number. So you can't just figure you're subtracting 0 or something like that. It's just that there are no values over here. There are no values over here. So we want to find that range of values where you can actually do the subtraction. Well, how do you do that? You need to look and make sure that the x values that work in here and the x values that work in here are together the domain. So we have two things happening. First of all, this part has to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, because you can't take a square root of a negative and get a real number. These solutions are real solutions, so that has to be greater than or equal to 0. The other one is this square root also has to be greater than or equal to 0. So we can do a little quick solving here. It's going to be negative 3x is greater than or equal to negative 3. Don't forget, when you divide by negative 3, it turns this over, so x is smaller than 1. And x is greater than negative 2/3. So x is less than or equal to 1 and greater than or equal to 2/3. What that looks like in interval notation, and what you probably noticed in the back of the book, is that it goes from negative 2/3 all the way up to 1. And it's just in that interval. Now, just to make sure that you see that that makes sense, I've put in the graphing calculator just to show you. All right, if we have, okay, come on, there we go. If we put this right in the graphing calculator and we zoom 6 it, so we can take a look at what the graph looks like, we're expecting it to give us a value between negative 2/3 and 1, and it really does. So your domain goes from here to here, but there's no values over here and no values over here when those two things got subtracted, just like I talked about with this one. Let's look at them side by side. Okay, so when you're subtracting one of them from the other of them, you're only getting values, and it's this one minus this one, you're only getting values from here to here. Over here, there are no values for this function, and over here there are no values for this one. So just in that little tiny area. So that's what's up with the domain for that. So that was a interesting and good question. It's one of the harder ones that we see there, but it's a good way to check that you understand about domain, especially if you're going on in math to a higher level, and it also helps you to understand about what your graphing calculator can do for you. All right, that's it. Enjoy your studying. God bless you, and goodbye.